Right, here we are live on Facebook. And welcome to another episode of Chatting with Patty. I'm here with my dear friend, Daniel Tirado, who I've been asking, comedian, forever to show up on this show. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and then we do our thing. We chat. So, Danielle, and please feel free to, Danielle, to fill in whatever I might be missing. But if I understand correctly, you are now, well, we'll talk about now, but basically you're based in New York City, actor, comedian, writer, and raised in Montreal, born and raised in Montreal. You actually graduated at McGill University with a BA in literature and religion. I didn't know that about you. And then, hold up, it's coming, because you're going to give me some details about that. And then you decide to pick up and move to New York City to study acting at the Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, and you graduate from that, only to then say, I want to be a comedian. Let me take a shot at it. And then you got a lot of people's attention, including AXS TV's Gotham Comedy Live, the world-renowned Montreal Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. I think you've done some stuff on TV, NBC. You might even tell me more, but it seems like you really hit it with the comedy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So how do you go from, the literature, religion BA to comedy? Really?
Okay. Well, where do I start?
Where do you start?
Okay, so initially I wanted to become a professor, a teacher. I wanted to become a teacher. Yeah. Because I didn't have like the gugats to follow my dream, the strombone. So then finally I said, you know what? I got to do what I love. So I started taking these workshops in acting while I was studying in university. So and I remember very clearly my teacher was he was a teacher from Montreal, and he said, well, why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting your time studying literature when you should be, full-time actor, just devoted to acting? And I'm like, well, I started the degree. I'd like to finish it. And at the same time, acting, playwriting, it's all about words. You got to understand the words. It's like, what do you mean you got to understand the words? You act. You're an actor. And I'm like, well, if you don't understand the words, you can't act. And then I said, let me give you an example. And this was in front of his whole class. I said, what would you say is Shakespeare's most famous line from a play? And he said, I don't know, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? I said, all right, that's one of them. Okay, so what does that mean to you? Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And he says, well, it means Romeo, Romeo, where are you, Romeo? So what it means. I was like, well, yeah, that's what a lot of people would think it means. But wherefore means back then meant why. Juliet is asking, why are you Romeo? Because one's a Capulet and one's a Montague. They come from two different families. And because they're not from the same family, they're not meant to be together. So she's on the balcony and she's asking an existential question. But if you're an actress and you don't understand the words, and you're like, hey, where are you, Romeo? Hey, you behind the bushes? Then you lose complete sense of the meaning. And then he just stood there, and that's when I realized I need to finish my degree.
Not that I
Right. He was humiliated, but rightfully so. The language is so important. So I decided to finish my degree, and then I decided to venture out to theater school. I was watching a documentary with James Lipton, Inside the Actor Studio. So Robert De Niro was my favorite actor. It is one of my favorite actors, but especially his earlier work. And I remember seeing an interview with him, and he said, if you want to be a true actor, you have to go to New York City and you have to study in a conservatory. And that just, when your favorite actor says that, you must live by those words. So I made a very firm decision. I got to find a way to go to New York and study acting. So I went to New York. I auditioned for a few schools. I actually auditioned at Juilliard School. Yeah, I auditioned there. It was probably the most horrific experience. It's just weird. It was just so weird. I remember the audition. We were maybe 200 students auditioning in this, I guess, a ballet room. And the teacher says, "All right, everyone, just be an animal. We're gonna warm up our bodies, and you're gonna become an animal. Just become any animal." And Patty, when I tell you, I saw every animal out there. I saw chihuahuas. I saw giraffes. I saw Godzilla. I saw every. I'm not kidding.
You're not even kidding.
I saw everything. I felt so out of place. I hid underneath a table, and there was another guy next to me, and he asked me, "What are you?" And I said, "I'm a turtle." And he said, "Me too." And we just bonded on that moment. Like, we were just looking at this outrageous spectacle of lunacy. It was just and then something about the energy didn't feel right. My audition was like, meh. I wasn't in the right place for it. And then I went to see other schools. I went to try out for the Neighborhood Playhouse, another great school called Stella Adler. But nothing felt like home like the Neighborhood Playhouse. It was just this really cozy. The whole building is painted in black. The doors are red. Martha Graham, who is the founder of modern dance, the goddess of modern dancing. That was her school. She taught dancing at the Neighborhood Playhouse. It was first a dancing school. And in the 60s, it was taken over more as an acting school by Sanford Meisner. And so we had ballet. We had ballet once a week. We had modern dance once a week. We had, singing, speech, voice, acting, Shakespeare, Meisner. We had everything. But I was actually in the ballet room and on the dance floor where Martha used to teach.
Wow.
Yeah. And the pianist, Ted, was an old man. He was 88 years old. He passed away a few years ago now. He lived to be 200. He actually played for Martha. Wow. So I'm having the same pianist.
I have shivers.
In the same room, in the school where Diane Keaton went, James Caan, Gregory Peck, so many greats, Leslie Nielsen, the list goes on. And there's just something about that energy that is so unique, so special. I turned off my phone and yet it's still ringing. Hold on.
There's a little button on the side that says buzz.
Yeah. I flipped it the wrong way. Okay, buzz. I know.
The story of your life. Wrong flip.
No, exactly. Well said. So then I'm done with acting school, and I'm pretty much done. And then right then and there, I was reading Robin Williams' biography. He's one of my favorite actors.
Is he?
Yeah, actors. I love. I enjoyed him. No, I enjoyed him a lot as a comedian. Okay. I really did. I thought he was wonderful. But especially as an actor, he has this sensitivity that is, I just love him. So in his biography, he actually studied acting. He dropped out of Juilliard and he was performing on the streets, doing stand-up on the streets. Yeah. And he said that after doing stand-up, there's nothing he felt he couldn't do as an actor. So to become the best actor I can be, I said, I got to do stand-up. And I was always like the clown. I was always the funny guy with my friends. You know me since I'm a kid, like since I'm 17. I'm like, I was that guy. I was like, hey, you get to shake that off. So I said, I know I could be funny, but I do know that I want to be the best actor I can be. So if one of my favorite actors is saying venture into stand-up comedy, then I'll give it a shot. And then another thing, one of the teachers told me, he said, don't be, he said this to me on the last day of school. He said, you're good, Daniel. You're good. Don't be that actor that sits by the phone, just waiting for an audition. Like go get him, and nothing felt more proactive than being a stand-up comedian, because a stand-up, you write your material, you're on stage, you're performing, and there's no safety net. In dance you have the music. In dance you may have a partner or you may not, but you still have the music, you have the rhythm. Acting on stage, you have your partner, and even if you're saying a monologue and you're alone on stage, you have the lines, you have the lighting, you have direction. But in stand-up, you're the only writer, you're the only director, you're the only performer, and nothing, I think, helps that creativity, helps you take your craft to the next level than stand-up. And there's a lot of similarities with acting. Acting is a lot about listening and answering, a lot like dancing. You listen and you answer body, right? It's a dialogue.
It is it's non-verbal ours, but it's still
Right.
a dialogue. Yep.
100% a dialogue. So stand-up is also a dialogue. Even though I'm talking by myself, I'm listening to the audience. I know when to set up, to punch, to tag a joke, to wait for it. Timing is key, but it's really listening to the audience. If you're not listening, if I just say a joke flat, with an off timing, just doesn't make sense.
And you truly have honed in on that skill, because I've seen your growth. I've got the chance to follow you and see you live. And when you came back to Montreal with this whole pandemic, I saw a tremendous shift, because you literally held the audience. You had some people in there that you were pulling stuff out of them, and you were relentless in trying to not let it go, to not just brush, oh, he's not participating. You would try every angle with this guy that was not kind of willing, and to see the artistry of that happening while still being funny. And the rest of us were watching it and going, wow, this is hilarious. Even though the guy was like kind of out to, like, kind of disconnected, you were, and coming up with these brilliant jokes in the process of trying to connect with him. So I found you've grown tremendously exactly to that point, because I can even see you after. I said, what the heck was that? He goes, I don't know, man. I pulled all kinds of that was really impressive.
I remember that night. That guy was very awkward, but
Very.
I had a mission to connect with him somehow. It's all about connection. There's a great comic, Bill Hicks. He says he has like 12 rules of comedy. One of his rules is, if you can be funny, at least be interesting. And truth has so much to do with, just like acting, just like dancing, just like anything, just like any art form, truth is key. However uncomfortable you are, however awkward the moment may be, I kind of relish in that, because it's such a vulnerable moment that we all live. By the way, I love your decor. Like, you got the roses matching.
You're disappearing more and more into the abyss.
I know. I feel like I'm, like you said, I look like I'm in space.
Only your nose will be left at the end.
I look like I have leukemia.
Come back. Exactly. So let's have this conversation about vulnerability, because I'm asking this in a roundabout way. I'm not quite sure where this is going to go, but part of my question to you was, look, the journey of an artist is not an easy journey. And you took a lot of chances to leave Montreal, the security of Montreal, to go to New York. And then when in New York, I remember we've had conversations where you told me about literally being in the streets crying. I don't know if you want to, like, you had many breakdowns. Like, how do you go through all these moments where it's a test of your character, your test of even wondering if you should still be in this line of work. Like, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I'll next time I'll just give you scissors to just cut my balls off. Just remember that time you told us in this private moment that we had where you're falling apart and you had a nervous break. Remember that part when you had a nervous breakdown? Remember?
Oh, sure.
You know what? I was twice in that moment in New York City where I just broke down. I really in almost at the core, almost, I'm gonna say almost because I didn't give up. Almost at the core, I felt like I'm not good enough. I'm not meant to do this, you know? So I remember once, it was like after a show, I started like breaking down, and I felt like you know like the floor, like the sidewalk was cracking beneath my feet, you know, a little bit like any street in Montreal, like just about to crumble. And my wife was in Montreal, and I give her a call, and I was like, you know what, I had a breakdown. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm good enough. And then she was like half asleep. She's like, yeah, you're good enough. Don't worry. And then I gotta go sleep. I'm tired. I was like, and I never felt so alone, you know. And that happened twice. And I think you need time to heal from that. But how many times do you need to fail to before when you realize that it's just part of the journey of you just got to fail. It's part of the recipe. Like the key to success is failure after failure after failure, and some failures will hurt way more than others. Some are excruciatingly painful. The first time I went up on stage, I bombed so bad. I bombed so bad that while I was on stage, I was rubbing my belly, and I only know this because I videotaped it. Ooh. And I realized afterwards. So I'm on stage telling jokes and bombing, and I'm just naturally rubbing my belly, and I didn't know that my whole body was anticipating this belly ache that I had right after I stepped off stage, and I literally, Patty, I couldn't breathe. I was outside the club. I was hunched over and I was holding my belly and I couldn't breathe. I was so tight. My stomach was so tight. And I told myself, I will never do comedy again. I will never write. I will never perform. This is not for me. And literally 10 days later, I said, if I quit, then I'm just a quitter. I'm not giving it a fair shot. So, there's a very fine line between your ego and your spirit. And sometimes I get them confused. It's not, is it my ego that said, I'm not a quitter, or was it my spirit that is like, or maybe it's a combination of both. But there's a very thin line, between, ego and spirit. But I do believe, looking back, that it was my spirit that I had to. I couldn't give up. I couldn't give up. So I went up on stage. The second show was better. The third one I bombed, and up and down and up and down. And your highs are so high, your lows are so low. And with time, those vicissitudes, they kind of
diminish, right?
Your highs get, the sensation of the high is not as high, and the sensation of the low is not as bad. It's like, if I do good, if I have a great show, I'm like, oh, that was fun today. If I have an awful show, I'm like, I'll get it next time.
Yeah.
I try to see what I could have done better. What did I learn? But I don't beat myself up, or I don't believe anymore that I'm like the king of the world when I have a great set.
So what keeps you more grounded? Was it just over time, or do you actually have things that you go to help you stay grounded?
I think it's experience. I think it's doing it over and over and over and over. I think it's also me getting at an early stage into meditation when I was, in my 20s. I went to this, I'm sure you've heard of this. I think we spoke about this.
This is my back way to ask you about it.
Right. That's smooth, Patty. That was
I would
smooth.
chop you again.
That was like a salsa movie pulled on me. I'm like, whoa, I'm in.
Let's see if he's ready to talk about it.
I am. After that breakdown story, I can talk about anything. So I went to this. A lot of Montrealers know this place, the Vipassana. It's a 10-day retreat. So for 10 days, you can't speak, you can't read, you can't write. You literally meditate 10 hours a day, and they feed you this great vegetarian food. They give you a place to sleep. They teach you how to meditate, and they don't ask you for a penny. It's free.
No, wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. So you just need to dedicate 10 days of your life, and you leave there with, it's as if someone handed you the key to happiness. Not happiness. They're just giving you like a tool. This is a key. This is the tool. Use it as often as you can, whenever you can. And sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't, sometimes you forget about it. But they gave you this. They gave me this incredible tool. And yeah, you learned, that there are no eternal storms. Whatever shit you go through, it's at some point it's gonna pass. And be it those great moments, they're gonna pass. And you know, uh, when people often associate all things shall pass with a miserable moment or a sad moment, but so are the good moments. So are the great moments. And to that, sometimes I pull away from this amazing moment. I'm like, this isn't going to last forever, and it makes me appreciate it more. And sometimes when I'm really down, I step away from it, and I'm like, wow, this isn't incredible, the sensations that your body can feel, like just an elephant stepping on your chest. Like, isn't that amazing? That you could just feel that. But it's incredible, all the sensory experiences, be it pleasurable or unpleasurable. I don't want to say good or bad, but everything is either pleasurable or not pleasurable. So that was a huge thing into shifting the way I think, the way I approach the results of my stand-up. And it also helped me go into depth with my material, and just reading the right books. I was, like you said, I studied religion. I have a fascination for I have like a Jesus fetish. Like, I think he's like, my dad was supposed to be a priest.
Really?
Yeah, so he studied to become a priest. He studied all his life in a seminary. I feel, am I getting
Yeah,
too?
you're disappearing. You're disappearing. Lean in, baby. Lean in.
Yes. How's this?
Ah, the light has, as you speak about Jesus, there is the light.
I look dead. I look dead though.
You look a little washed out. You do, but it's okay.
Any other character assassination in this interview? So yeah, my dad was very much like, bedtime stories was like Jesus walking on water. You're like, whoa, this is amazing. This dude walks on water. He feeds everyone. He feeds the poor. Adam and Eve, was another great story. Finding out that a woman is made out of a rib. Like, what kid is not amazed by these fairy tales? So because my father was very close to becoming a priest, and my mom was, she went to school and pretty much felt like a convent. Polish, very Catholic. My father, very Catholic, Peruvian. So when I had the chance to study religion, I saw a class called The Historical Figure of Jesus.
Ooh.
And I was like, whoa, that's so cool, right? Just the title of the class. And I walked in believing and seeing Jesus as the Son of God, as an 18-year-old. But I left that class in one semester. I left leaving that class thinking of Jesus as this political rebel.
Interesting.
Yeah, and fascinating that this political rebel that we actually base our calendar on this one individual. Like whether you believe in Jesus or not, if you believe in Tuesday, you believe in Jesus, you know. If you believe
Okay.
this is 2020, you somehow believe in Jesus.
Mm.
Because if you don't, you're like, well, this is not 2020, according to what calendar, according to what religion, you know. Nobody debates that. No atheists debates that, you know. Everyone kind of accepts that it all starts at Jesus. And the teachings of Jesus were fascinating, you know, because the Old Testament, there's the God is very wrathful, you know, thunder and fear and you know, let's kill all the kids in the village to teach a lesson, you know. But the Jesus in the New Testament, the God in the New Testament, is a very forgiving God. It's a very, you know, give the other cheek, you know. The high priest would say, don't cheat on your wife. And Jesus would say, it's not about cheating on your wife. It's about the very thought of cheating on your wife. There lies the sin. So he was going at such a deeper, you know, level of consciousness, which was a term that didn't even exist back then, or a notion that was somehow understood, but, you know, I don't think that word existed. So I thought that was fascinating, that someone that is seen as the Son of God is truly a man fighting for higher values at a deeper level, you know. And you know, Jesus disappears from the New Testament from the age of 9 to I think 30 or 31. He's gone. There's no there's no telling of his teenage years. I would have
Like to know.
well, I feel like, you know what? Jesus was pretty wild as a teenager, a little horny, a little too horny. Let's pull it back.
Put it out there.
Let's just delete that passage. Let's delete 20 years. All the hookers, the coke, we want it out. But when he meets John the Baptist, let's bring that back.
Right back.
So there's something also really fascinating about that, about what's missing. Why is this not being shared with us? Also, back then, the story of Jesus, there was no such thing as Christianity. Christianity was formed, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 460 years after. So it was just people who followed Jesus were Jews. You know, they were like, it was a Jewish sect, and they were Jesus followers. So they, you know, and the story of Jesus back then, everything was told by oral storytelling. So, you know, that's why you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they all have like different. There's variations of a story, right? So I thought that was fascinating, but then to have those that that game that we play when we were kids, when you whisper something into someone's ear and it goes around the table, and then it becomes something completely different.
Right.
So I think that's what happened for the first 80 years, you know, because technically the testaments were written 80 years after zero.
Right.
So for 80 years, for like 69 to 80 years, people were just, there was this oral tradition of the storytelling of Jesus, forward documented, you know. And there's another one, the Gospel of St. Thomas, that was found in a vase in Egypt in 1945, which the church refuses to accept as one of the Gospels. So it's just too fascinating, everything that we don't know, that, you know, we're supposed to know, that they don't want us to know, the church. Yeah. But I've always been fascinated with Jesus. I've always been fascinated with his, you know, with Jesus, with Buddha, you know, Krishna, all these, you know, enlightened beings, you know. So I was always drawn to that as a kid. Yeah, I was very, very drawn to that. And I think it shaped me at a very early age. And when I heard about Vipassana, I knew that I had to go there. I knew that I had for some people, when you say you have to go away for 10 days and not talk and not be on your phone and not read it, I know a lot of people, they say like, I could never do that in my life. But I know a lot of people who tell me that's exactly what I need.
Mm.
And all of those who did go to Vipassana, I think I've had 5 friends, because I tell everyone to go. Uh, but all the 5 friends who did go, they all came back and they hugged me. They said, Danny, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, it takes tremendous discipline, courage, because you're facing your deepest demons, because you're there in full consciousness, and then what is at a subconscious level surfaces to your consciousness. What is at your unconscious level surfaces to your subconscious, subconscious to conscious. So you have like beautiful experiences, but you also see demons.
Mm.
And your sleeping is, after the 7th day, is almost magical. You're almost not even, it's like you're lying in aware. You're practicing awareness for 11 hours a day. By the time you go to bed, you're still aware in your sleep. It's the strangest thing. So you remain aware, and you dream, but you're aware of your dream, and you're aware that you're sleeping, yet you're awake. It's fascinating.
Right.
And once you leave, you're so connected, and you meet people. Go ahead. You had a
Well, I
question.
was gonna say, do you really feel connected? Because I'd almost think at first it might be the opposite. You're just on overstimulus from everybody. Do you wanna?
Uh, well, that's why they use the 11th day as a buffer.
Oh,
You get to talk to everyone, because they wouldn't just throw you out to the wolves, aka the city.
yeah.
So you get to speak to people, and I met fascinating people. I met this 81-year-old Korean who looked like he was 55. I'm not kidding. He looked 55, and I said, why did you come here? And he said, well, I'm 81. And I'm like, what? I said, I thought you're 55. He's like, I'm 81. And I know I'm close to dying. I said, are you sick? He says, like, no, I'm not sick at all. I'm very healthy. But if you count the numbers, I'm pretty close. And he said, I said, all right, touche. And he said, and I'm preparing to die. I want to be fully aware when I transition to wherever I'm going. And I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that he was preparing to die when he was so healthy. He looked great energy. I just thought that was like, wow, what courage, you know?
Absolutely. And
What,
and at that stage of life, why bother? Someone
what
would say,
God, Netflix, like my dad. Yeah.
and look at him. Wow.
Yeah. And I never forgot that, so you have the older students are in front and the younger students are in the back. So the people who are right in front of you are more still because they're more experienced. So you look at that stillness, and that inspires you as a meditator, because at some point you have to practice not moving. I think that starts on the 5th or 6th day. You can't move at all for 1 hour, and your back is killing. You're itchy. You just want to like stretch your back, but you're not allowed. You have to stay paralyzed for 1 hour, and it's excruciating. There's moments of pain where I'm sweating, and they teach you to observe the pain as opposed to react to it, which is just a metaphor for a life lesson. Instead of reacting to whatever heartbreak, whatever you feel in your body is just a sensation, and it always comes down to pleasurable or non-pleasurable. So when you have like a leg ache or a pain or whatever joint pain you have, it really is a pleasurable or not pleasurable sensation. So if you just look at it as a sensation, you observe it, you don't attach yourself to it, you don't react to it, you just watch it, and sooner or later the pain dissipates. It dissipates, and it goes away. And then another pain comes from your shoulder, and then like, oh man, and then that goes away, and then you have back pain, and then that goes away, and then you're just watching yourself, And I only experienced this once in the 3 or 4 times that I went, where I broke all the blockages, and I experienced like a complete flow of energy. And I felt as though somebody just poured a bucket of energy on me, and I literally felt weightless. I felt like I was floating. I felt like I was vibrating. I felt like I didn't know. I couldn't tell the floor from the ceiling, the sides, the air. Everything was the same. It was incredible. And then the goddamn the bell rang. And I was so pissed. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!"
I'm there.
I'm like, "I'm Buddha. I'm Buddha." So, and they teach you that that's a trap, because it becomes such a pleasurable experience that a lot of meditators chase that. So by chasing that, you're working against the very act of meditation, which is to not want anything, to just observe. But if you're deep down just wanting to feel that all the time, that becomes your nicotine, or your drugs, or your marijuana, or your alcohol, or your sex, or whatever.
Wow.
So it becomes a very double-edged sword.
No kidding.
Yeah, I only experienced it once,
Wow.
and it was sensational.
Wow. And you, so when you meditate, you right now, when you go through those moments,
Never meditate now. Who needs to meditate? Now I meditate when I'm in trouble.
Okay.
I wish I could meditate more, but with 2 kids, and it's probably an excuse, but I just don't find the time or the discipline. My kids wake me up already at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And if I'm gigging late at night, I can come home anywhere from, 12 to 2. So kids are, especially now with COVID, I'm completely surrounded by this, by the kids, the family. So I have very, very, very little me time. Okay. And meditation is not just the act of sitting down. That's just the practice. But the meditation is every moment, being meditative with your kid. I remember a story, like Dan Millman was like the first guy who got me into this whole, like, I even hate that word spiritual, but he got me into that whole, that realm, right? I feel like the word spiritual has become so polluted, you know what I mean? So when I was 17, I read a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which was probably the first initiation into that realm. You know what? I'm just gonna turn on the light. Let me just give you a little more of what I look like. Hey. So now I feel like, where was I? With Dan Millman, right? So Dan Millman is telling a story about how he's meditating, and he just had a kid, and his kid is always coming to see him while he's meditating, and he just starts snapping. He's like, "I'm meditating," And I thought that was so funny, but it was a huge lesson for him and for us to just get that, taking a walk, eating an apple, writing, or everything is a meditative moment. It's like the sitting down is just an excuse. It does help ease the mind. Just like church every Sunday. It's just an excuse. It's just a little reminder. It's a little practice. But, it's like you can't be like hurtful to people all the time and like, "Hey, I'm gonna meditate now." I'm gonna meditate once an hour. I'm good. It's just, now it's a bigger challenge to incorporate that meditation into whatever I do.
Yeah. It's funny. 2 things come to mind. Michael Singer was someone that I read his books, The Untethered Soul, The Surrender Project. He very much spoke about that. He meditates, I think, twice a day, but more as a discipline than an actual, it's not right. Because for 15 minutes, it's not because this is what changes me that moment, as much as it's a discipline of of creating that practice to make it a priority in your life, just to make you a priority.
Yeah.
To some degree. But in the end, same thing. It's every moment of every day. That's what he says. And I remember after reading that, I did take a meditation course for a weekend with this guy, Albert, who's great. And he also is along the same mindset. And he basically made it more tangible for me, because it literally was about, Patty, you can be walking down the streets of Montreal and be in a meditative state by literally taking in the sounds, being the observer, like literally lighting up the senses around you, so that you can be so much in the present moment of it that you start to get into this brain wave that can help calm your system.
Yeah.
So it became a lot easier for me to do it moment by moment, instead of allocating a certain amount of time of trying to get complete quietness. It just says, I'm in the car and I'm driving, and I'm just suddenly it's gonna hit me to take in the scenery, the heating of the chair. Like, I really just get into my body, into my senses that much more. And I just know that the practice of that, doing that in that moment, is doing what my energy and my emotions, or whatever that needs to calibrate to stay in this state of calmness, so that when there's uncertainty, it's more easily, it finds its way there faster or more easily.
Right. And that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is just the remembering.
Yeah.
That's all it is. There's a book called Conversations with God, and he says it beautifully. He says to remember is to remember, to become a member of the source. As soon as you remember, you remember, you re-member. And that's all it is. It's just that it's just a question of awareness. So is comedy. Comedy is just a question of being fully aware of what's funny, or what's weird, or what's scary, or what's hard. And once you capture that and you're aware of it, you write it down and you start building a joke. But so many times people just tell you funny things and you laugh and you just let it go. But my job is to be aware of, like, that's funny, let me write that down. Or what I just said was funny, let me write that down. And comedy, truth, God, love, it's all really, it's really intertwined. The most meditative people are the funniest people to me. They're just always like, that's why I had like an epiphany of like I was sleeping during the Vipassana 10-day retreat, and one day I had an epiphany. I understood why Buddha was laughing. Like, you always seem like laughing.
Yeah.
The statue, like, the guy's bald, fat. He has nothing to be happy for, But he's alive. But he's happy. He's genuinely, he's laughing. The story of Buddha is also very interesting. Buddha, I even wrote a joke about this, but Buddha, few people know this, but Buddha had a wife and kid, and he left them in pursuit of enlightenment. That's really crazy when you think about it. Like, his wife must have been like at a doorstep crying, like, why are you leaving us? And he's like, well, I'm leaving you for happiness. It's like, I want to be happy. Just don't see you and a kiddo in the picture. And what's even more insane, Patty, is that he didn't leave him for a guaranteed happiness. He left them, and he found happiness sitting underneath a tree, for I think 41 days, 38 days. I forget how many days. But he said, I will sit here, not eat, shit myself, not move until my bones collapse, and I'll die if I have to. Yet that seemed like a better option than staying with his family. Yeah. And he found happiness. And yes, the message, the message that and he never started Buddha. He never, that's man who messed everything up, that's his disciples who messed up, because he just taught Vipassana. He just taught this technique of meditation. He never started Buddhism, just like Jesus never started Christianity, and then, but the problem is, like, we try to interpret these enlightened minds when we're not enlightened, and we have our interpretations and you have your interpretation, then you start your own religion and I start my own religion, and your sect and my sect, and Protestants and Catholic, and everyone's right, and hey, we love Jesus but we hate each other. You know, like it just makes no sense. So
Right.
it's just, we forget the root of everything and we divide, and we forget. I remember once I was in Poland, in a city called Gdańsk, which is probably one of the most beautiful European cities that I've ever visited. And there's a very small church that was there during, I think it was the only church that didn't get bombarded during the Second World War. And there's a statue of Jesus, and he had his head down, and he was hunched over, and he was on his knees, and he was just like, and to me that was like, that was the most beautiful portrayal of Jesus, because to me I understood that as like, what the fuck did you guys do with my message? What did you guys do? You know, like we remember Jesus at the peak of his torture, crucified. You know, that's how it's either baby Jesus next to a cow, or or the crucified Jesus. But there's no other like statue of or remembrance of him. And I thought that that was such a beautiful way of like, we kind of messed it up, and we're all trying to find the but the answer is, it's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. We're all searching for something we already have.
Right.
The lion searching for the courage, and the Tin Man, the brains, and the Scarecrow is the is it the Scarecrow, the courage?
I think the Scarecrow, the courage, Scarecrow,
Yeah, yeah,
courage.
yeah. And the lion, the
Maybe
lion,
the lion. Somebody was, yeah, the
heart,
lion must have
the
been
heart,
heart.
heart, right, the heart.
Yeah.
So all that to find out at the end that they had it all along.
Mhm.
And it's like the opening passage of I'm sure you read this, the Power of Now.
Yeah. Well, I listened to it more than read it, and
Okay.
it's not an easy. So I've listened, not fully, but
That book is exactly Vipassana understood at a brain level.
okay. Hmm.
But you cannot understand that. No one can understand that book, I believe, until you experience it with Vipassana.
Yeah.
Or I don't know any other forms of meditation. I know, like, I don't believe in mantras, and I'm sure they help, but Vipassana, there's no mantra, there's no artificial
Okay.
vibrations that
Mm.
you, because with a mantra there's a vibration, the vibration goes into your body, and it helps, of course. Anything helps,
Mm.
drinking water helps,
Mhm.
being aware, breathing 10 times, counting to 10 helps. uh so they are tools, but Vipassana, there's nothing artificial, there's nothing fabricated, it's only pure observation of your body. And I read Power of Now before Vipassana, and I read it after Vipassana, and it was just so clear. It was so
Mhm.
clear. It's like the Bible of meditation, understood, but it could only be experienced. You can't just read that book. But I'm just mentioning the Power of Now because at the beginning of at the opening of the book, he tells a story of a homeless man who sits on a box and he's begging for money all his life, and then a person passes by and he says, "What's inside that box?" Like, "Ah, it's an old box. I've just been sitting on it all my life." And he's like, "Well, did you ever bother looking inside?" And it's filled with gold. He's been sitting on this
Mhm.
pot of gold all his life, not and begging. So that's, it's just a question, like, we search, but to just kind of know that we have it.
Yeah.
you
Trust it.
know it's such a, yeah, to trust, that faith. I don't like the word hope. I feel like hope, you're walking, on thin ice. It's like weak. Hope's for the weak. Like, I hope. It's like, you're such a weakling if you hope. But to have faith is to just trust
Right.
that whatever outcome it is for the good. And you might not see it today. You might not see it today. But I really believe that just like right now, what we're living right now,
Yeah.
I'm just like maximizing it. You can be surrounded by people who say like, "Oh my God, I don't want to go back to normal. It sucks. I hate my job. I hate it." Or you could be surrounded by people who are like, "Man, this is amazing. How can this moment serve me to the best of my ability?" Like I'm practicing learning, electric guitar. I've always played music all my life, but I never ventured into electric guitar. I'm playing music. I'm learning the soul of Hotel California. I'm having a blast. I'm hanging out with my kids. I'm hanging out less with my wife because of the living situation is tricky now with, she's with her parents and with the baby and she's working full time. I'm homeschooling my son full time, trying
Is
to get
she
some work
here
done.
in the US?
She's here. She's here.
Okay.
So, but I could also be complaining about that. Like I never see you, but to just see how everything is working for you instead of against you. You can always see things like, yeah, this is always working against me. Or you could choose to see that everything's working for you. If you just stop for 2 seconds, you think all of this is working for me. Like how egocentric that may sound. It's for me. But I do believe that if you believe that in your heart, it will serve you. All of this, look what you're doing right now. It's amazing. You got roses. You got a painting you stole from a hotel room.
Look at this beautiful mic.
Oh. That was pretty phallic.
Exactly. All that I need.
You know what I mean? It's like you're sharing this. You wouldn't be doing this had, or maybe you would, but
no, I wouldn't have. COVID sparked a few things for me also.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because now you have the space, right? So you're like, okay, what am I going to do with this space?
Yeah. What are you going to do with the time? What are you going to do with, how are you going to feed yourself?
Yeah.
So we pray for moments like this for the world to stop. And then when it stops, we want it to go back, on. So it's just really, there's a great story about, it's like this story about a Zen master with his disciple. And then there's a story about this little kid who, he says, you never know if things are good or bad. They just are, So this kid it's his birthday and he gets a horse and the whole village is excited. Like, that's amazing. It's like, well, is it? Yeah, it's great. It's like, well, we'll see. Is it good? Is it bad? We'll see. A couple of weeks later, he's riding the horse. He falls off the horse. He breaks his leg. It's like, oh man, that's horrible. It's like, is it horrible? We'll see. A few weeks later, the army calls him to enlist him to go fight the war, but he can't go because his leg is broken. How amazing is it? So we have this habit, this way of labeling a moment as great or horrible. But a big lesson that I've learned in the last couple of years is to, whatever good or bad happens, to take a step back and let's see what happens with this, especially with bad things. I don't react to bad things or unwanted things the same way. If I get bad news, to the best of my ability, of course I do react, but to the best of my ability, I try to think like, all right, this sucks now, but maybe this is great. 6 months from now, a year from now, a week from now, tomorrow, 10 years from now. I needed to go through this hell so it's just the ability to take a step back and not label or judge a moment, but just kind of like go with the flow.
Very cool. So to end, I was curious because now you're in Montreal. I'm just gonna, and are you working on any projects for any, like what's with this time besides learning how to play the guitar, electric guitar?
That's all I'm doing, baby.
And being a dad.
Besides being, yes, no.
Just no.
You mean work-wise
I
or
don't, yeah, anything creatively, work-wise, whatever. Maybe it's creatively. Has this given you a space to be more creative on some things that you've been holding off on with your?
Yes, I am actually working on music for the first time. Seriously, like working on recording a song. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, but I've always, did you ever see my first comedy music video called "Be My Wife"?
No.
Oh, you got to check that out, Patty.
On
Yeah,
YouTube?
yeah, you can check it on YouTube, on Facebook. It's a song called "Be My Wife." Uh,
Okay.
the artist is Danny Vandell.
Okay.
So, AKA me.
That's what you call yourself. Okay.
But he's a persona from the 80s. And the music has this post-punk electro uh, synth pop sound, but it's very, post-romantic, yeah, and a little bit, think of Depeche Mode or what are they called? Depeche Mode or any The Cure, that kind of sound. So it was a concept that I had of making a song that sounds from that era, but creating a video that looks as though it was actually shot in 1983.
Wow.
So so I'm having fun with I'm reconnecting to music. Music has always been a huge part of my life. If I had to do it all over again, I'd be a musician.
Really?
Yeah. If I had to start all, because music is the only thing that when I'm alone or when I'm with people, I enjoy it. I can't tell jokes all alone, you know.
Okay.
Well, I could, but it's very sad. So, and any other form of art, I think music is just. I'm just so happy when I play alone, and I'm happy when I play with four people or with people. It's the only thing that truly, at every moment, makes me happy.
Nice.
So I'm kind of reconnecting to that, and I'm writing another screenplay. I just finished shooting a short film called The Yellow Bicycle that's now being submitted to short film festivals, and now I'm writing my first feature film.
Oh my.
Keeping myself busy with that, and
Hey.
while trying to perform. I was doing a lot of shows in Montreal before the lockdown,
Yeah.
but now it's I got to find a way to maximize this. How about
Absolutely.
you? How about you, Patty?
Yeah, well, I'm now work has picked up a little bit more. I've been traveling a little bit more, but at the beginning it was doing some stuff with my online business. I took up acoustic guitar for a little bit,
Ah,
for a while, but that takes regular practice and then my fingers start to hurt a bit and then, and then
yeah.
I wasn't as consistent, but I do
What
maybe
made you start playing acoustic guitar?
time that I had the time. I started to cook more. It's a simple thing like cooking. Like you have no idea. At first, I went to the kitchen and I cried because I've been always moving around. That I opened up the fridge and I remember having tears in my eyes because saying I don't know what to do. I'm blocked. What am I going to do with this? I'm stuck here. I don't want to go. You can't go out. What am I going to do? So now I enjoy it. I've enjoyed just being in the kitchen and cooking. It's as simple as that. I've enjoyed.
Crazy how
I took up a
meditative
little.
it is.
What was that?
Isn't it crazy how meditative cooking is?
Yeah, it is. But no, I can appreciate things when people say things like cooking or Mark. You met Mark. My boyfriend. he says mowing the lawn is. I say this. You
Yeah.
know,
I hope
mowing
he's
the
still
lawn is.
watching.
What's that? I
I
hope
hope-
he's watching.
Whatever.
Corny word, boyfriend. Don't you find it's corny?
Well, what do you want to say? My soulmate,
I don't know. They're all
you know,
my guy.
the
My
guy,
guy.
the guy,
The guy.
the most one.
The guy. He says mowing the lawn is very meditative. Like he loves doing it because he gets in this space of like, I was like, really? But once I started cooking, I kind of got it, like I could see how sometimes just doing this one thing of just creating or making the straight lines because they're straight, whatever, it may be. The lawn, the lawn.
What lawn are we talking about here? When you
Hey,
talk about
hey, hey.
straight lines, it's throwing me off
With an
here.
arrow.
But yeah, but you know what's crazy about cooking is that it's so meditative, but yet it's so violent. You know, you have like it's very strange. It's very strange.
Very strange.
But 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 I'm sure he no. But my question was why guitar? Why did he pick up guitar?
Because the
Like
part of
why not any other instrument
well,
or
so here's the thing about my other self, if I could. So before I was a dance coach, I was part of a youth group. I don't know if you ever know this, but in my youth,
a youth
a
group?
youth group, we were called the National Youth Talent Association. And what we did was we were all artists. There was singers, drummer, guitarists, comedians, dancers. I was the dance coordinator, and there was other guys that were in charge of their sector, if you will, or their and we got a government grant and we created this whole show, and that was all of us that were the leaders of each uh, branch of art, if you will, the dancers. We continued in that vein. That became our career and our passion. But what we did while we were young is we traveled across Canada representing Canadian talent and Canadian music. And we opened up on, like, we went to Expo 86 on the Canadian Pavilion for a week, and we were on stage singing and dancing. And so I got to play drums and sing a bit and do some good. I did a mixture of things while I was with this group. And we even opened up on Canada Day for BTO and Michelle Pagliaro, like we did.
Wow,
Of people. It was so freaking cool.
that's
And they
amazing.
actually gave me a T-shirt called Patty Paste because I had to play the drums for him to sing and go upstage to sing.
Wow.
And because I can hold a rhythm, and so I always knew I had musicality, or I could play an instrument if I stuck with it long enough. So, there's a part of me that would love to do that, and I'm so the guitar was for that, was kind of bringing back some of that past in me that I loved, that I was doing, and then trying to coordinate singing while doing that. But I didn't stick with it long enough now, because then I really got into this whole community online and having a place to share and
Yeah.
doing some other stuff. So that sort of took over a little bit more.
If you like classical guitar will hurt your the strings are way softer on your fingers.
Mm,
Yeah, because that's what I when I first started that acoustic really it's painful.
yeah.
Takes yeah,
Did it ever?
I know. I know.
Yeah. And so then you got to go through the pain to kind of do that. And then I was like, I don't know if it's worth the pain.
Yeah. I
And truthfully, I didn't want to sit down too long. That was the other thing. What my body missed, I'm a mover, right? So with the pandemic, we were stuck more. Felt, I wasn't dancing as much. So I was looking to go out. So I went hiking more, I went biking. I just started to do more physical activities, outdoor stuff that I needed to do to make my body feel happy, because sitting down and learning the instrument was just adding to the fact of sitting. So I
yeah,
needed something. So that was the other decision maker of I got to put this down for now. My body just wasn't happy sitting there.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's such a great practice, right? To
Oh, jeez.
because it's so no, but it's so like against your nature almost. You know, you're such a mover
Yeah. Damn you.
and a
You say
shaker.
that?
That's the worst. Great joke.
We're a shaker.
Patty, I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you. First, thank you so much for taking time to do
Come
this. You
on.
are, but seriously, you're a brilliant
Uh,
guy.
I'm a mirror image of you. I'm a mirror
No,
image
no,
of you.
seriously. From the moment I met you, when you walked into the dance studio, your eyes, I always remember those dark, deep, chocolatey eyes. So eager, so eager. It's your eyes. They were eager,
That's
eager
another,
to learn.
that's another word for it. uh, that's an inside joke between Patty and I.
Yeah, yeah. And it'll stay there.
But yeah, it's I think, but it's also how your energy too when you walk in the room. Like it was so much fun. You're so much fun to be around. You also create this studio at Arthur Murray or the one in Laval. When you walk in, it's like it's you feel like home. It's like Cheers, you know. It's
Yeah.
It's
It
like
was, it was. And
have
I
it
thank you
right.
for that, because that was the energy I wanted people to feel, right? Because this
Yeah,
is a great high. Come and feel this with me. Get in here, quick.
yeah. It was fun. It was so much fun.
And
So
you were so good. I even offered you a job, for crying out loud. I was like, come on, you'd
I,
be so good at this.
I you know what? If I would have, that's the thing. If it's like Michael Caine once said, acting, and for me it's comedy, but acting, but it's like it's not a full-time job, it's a full-time obsession.
Mm,
So if I'm not obsessed with it, if I'm not like, you know, a lot of people always ask me, my family especially, what's your B plan? You know, it's like I never had a B plan. There's no, as soon as you have a B plan, you're setting yourself up to possibly fail. But to just like, no, this is it. This has to be done. I have to make it. No safety net. There's no choice.
mm.
And when there's no choice, you figure out how to do it. It's like I remember my father-in-law when he moved here from Egypt, he came with no money.
Mm.
And he had, the only thing that was valuable was a watch. It was a gold watch. I'm not sure if it's a gold watch, but it was a watch. It was a nice watch. And he just threw it out in the river, and he just he said, now I have nothing, and now I have to find a job, and I have to make
Wow.
have to find a way to survive, and nothing to sell, nothing to found a job in a kitchen. He became very successful later on, but that determination of
Mm.
no choice.
Yep. There you have it.
Yeah, I would have taken that gig, but I knew it would have been too much fun. It would have taken away from the focus. It would have
But
just
the
been hard.
pain that you had to learn with your acting and comedy, yes.
Right. It was too much fun. It was too much fun. But you bring that, you create that energy. So
Well, thank you for that. But thanks again. Mm,
thank you, Patty.
thank you.
Yeah, let's hang. Let's hang before
Come
before.
on. What the heck before I leave again? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your
Okay.
time. Wonderful conversation. Love you to bits.
Likewise. Me.
Okay. And be well. All the best.
Okay. Likewise. Well,
Yeah.
I'll call you right after just so you can tell me how great I was.
Yeah. Here, ready.
Patty.
How you doing? Ciao.